Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Professor CISCO, and I'm reaching out to the student body. And yes, we're about to do another lab. But this lab is going to be done a little different. In this particular lab, we're going to work on troubleshooting. Now, troubleshooting is important. What you see on my screen right here is what we would call a typical IT service request. Some people gonna hear it as a ticket, an IT ticket, but we'll explain that as we move forward. But this is a regular request. Now, to be perfectly honest, this will come to you in the form of a digital copy. And you will take this digital copy and begin to fix the problem on the network. So now, what is the issue with this particular network? With this particular network, we want to connect the console cable from PC to the switch. Now, you will run into situations like this where you receive a IT ticket and you have to go in and fix the problem, especially if you're a network administrator. You also want to use your terminal to troubleshoot these particular problems. You want to use the exec privilege mode to figure these problems out. And then you want to go into global configuration to also fix the particular problems. Now, just know that troubleshooting is a way to resolve issues in the IT department. So anyone in the company who will have IT problems, your job will be as an IT administrator to troubleshoot these issues. Whether you're working on the network side of things, the programming side of things, or the system administrative side of things. You will just trace and connect to the faults and be able to fix these issues. Now, here's a little definition of what a ticket is. So, when you receive the support request, we tend to use the language that it is a ticket. So your job is to know what a ticket is, first and foremost, and then begin to fix the problem. Okay, so we got that sound down. Let's look at what problem we have today. So the problem we have today is John Doe, who works in accounting. He in room 234, he has a network issue. Now, his network issue is that simply his PC cannot go across the router to connect to his files and folders. In other words, something is wrong with the network and we have to go in there and fix the issue. And what John did was just basically completed all the information within a ticket, submitted the ticket to the IT department, and we received the ticket, and now we have to troubleshoot the issue. So over here, you're going to see me troubleshooting the issue from John's PC just to see if I can fix the particular problem. Okay, so let's get started, people. This is important. In each and every one of these lessons, after we go through a multitude of lessons, we're going to use these commands to figure out the problems in the form of troubleshooting these issues. It's important that you develop your troubleshooting skills because that's what you will get paid for. A lot of people don't understand this when they come into the IT industry. You get paid to fix problems. You become a problem solver, and that's why they are hiring you. So now let's go ahead and solve some problems. Well, we're going to fix this problem. Let's keep it real. Now, the task here is simply to find out why we cannot communicate from PCA to PCB and what's causing problems in the communication. As you can see, this particular switch, which is switch 1, has 192.168.1.2. Switch 2 has 192.168.1.3. John sent the email saying that he cannot communicate. he cannot send his files, his folders out. Something is blocking his communication. So as an IT person, the first thing I want to do is troubleshoot this switch. So I want to check the IP addresses to verify that these IP addresses on 192.168.12 is correct and 192.168.1.3 is correct on switch 1 and switch 2. I want to verify also that these IP addresses should have been assigned VLAN 1 on both switches. So the first thing I want to do is get a connection from PCA to the switch to do these steps. So I'm going to go here in my connections, get me a console cord, connect to PCA RS233, and then go to switch 1 and go to the console. Now I'm connected. So how would this really happen? In the real world, you'll be working in a data center, and in a data center, you'll simply have a PC with you, whether it's a laptop or a full PC that you rolling around on a cart, and you'll go up to the switch and do this process. Okay, this is the real world. Because we know we can remote in from anywhere, but if the switch is not connecting, we can't remote in. So I'm gonna go ahead in here, and then I'm gonna go to the terminal, and I'm gonna keep the same settings, and I'm gonna click OK. And now you can see that I have some activity going on in here. The first thing I want to do is enable to actually log into the switch. Now, of course, in the real world, this switch would have a lot of security on it and so on and so forth. But for this example, basic troubleshooting skills, you just want to be able to go in here and figure out what's going on. So we don't need all that security stuff. Okay. So now from there, what we want to do is check the VLAN. Now, it's important that you start using your show commands to be able to check these particular devices. So now I'm going to go ahead and type in my show command. So I'm going to say, make sure I say show interface IP interface brief. And if I type this in correctly, I should be able to see all of the interfaces that's connected to that particular switch. Now I'm gonna go down and see what's going on. So I can see here clearly that the IP address is assigned to VLAN 1, but it says administrative down. Now, we know if it's administrative down, that means somebody didn't do their job. And what was their job to do? Is turn it on. And how do we turn it on? We just simply say no shutdown. And that's why I'm telling you, students, always check your configuration before you leave the job. All this person had to do was just simply type in show IP interface brief. They would have then saw that they didn't turn the device on. They configured it, they put an IP address in there, but they didn't turn it on, so it's not working. What do we do to fix this problem? Let's think for a minute. Okay, so we thought for a minute. So what I am going to do to resolve this issue, and remember the words that I'm using. Now I'm resolving the issue. I'm solving the problem. The first thing I'm going to do is go to configuration terminal. I'm going to escalate myself up to another level. And once I get into the config mode, what I want to do is go interface, and I'm typing in interface because I want to get to interface VLAN 1. Remember, we're just doing basic troubleshooting. All I should do is say no shutdown. This is all I should be able have to do to solve this problem. And as you can see right here, line protocol interface VLAN changed state to up. So that means that that portion now is working. Now I'm gonna do an exit. It's another way I can get out, but I'm just gonna exit, and then I'm gonna exit again. These are the step through ways I'm teaching you. You know it's another way. I could have just typed in and went all the way back here. And then I'm gonna arrow up to bring that show IP interface brief and hit enter. Now I'm gonna go down and look at that port. And as you can see right now, VLAN 1 with the IP address is up. So that portion of the problem has been solved. Now we have to go look at the other portion of this network. So I'm gonna close that box and we want to come over here. Now this portion has been solved. We know now that this PC can go from PCA to S1. But we want to check over here. Remember, if the person who did this didn't configure this side of the network correctly, they may have not configured this side of the network correctly. So let's do that again. Let's get us another console cable and check, click on that, and actually go to S2 console, come into PCB, and actually go to the terminal, accept the way it's set up, hit enter, and this time we will go ahead and say enable. Now we know we're going to type in show IP brief. We're just going to go straight to it just to see what the interfaces look like. Remember, we already know we had one problem on one side of the network. Now we want to make sure that we just check in to see if we have another problem within here. Okay, so we see some things are up, things look good, and we're gonna go down. Well, we see a problem here. We see that VLAN 1 does not have its IP address. Now this is even deeper. See, IP address is not assigned here, and we also see that of course it's administratively down. So we have to solve that problem. Now, how will I solve that problem? Of course, I'll just simply go into config terminal, and remember we on switch 2, and from there I will go into interface VLAN 1, because we're still doing VLAN 1, it's just that we're on another switch. And then we want to give it an IP address. And you know how to give IP addresses now. You should have this down. You know, it's no problem with this. Just IP address, and then you put the IP address in. You just got to make sure you put the right one in here, because that's critically important too. Stutons. Okay, so we're going to drop that in there. And then we're going to give it its subnet address, which is, of course, 255.255.255. And then we're going to say 0.0. Now, if we did everything right, that should take, and it did. Now we have to say, of course, no. And I'm just going to abbreviate it, shut. We know that means no shutdown. Hit enter. And it shows you here that the lines are up. And then I'm going to hit enter again. And this time I'm just going to say end. And it's going to take me here. Now, of course, I'm just going to arrow key up to get that show IP interface brief. Now I have the show IP interface brief. I'm going to hit enter. And it should show me that these lines are up. And there you go. We have an IP address assigned. And we have the lines. The status is up and the protocol is up. So let's take a step back and briefly go over. We use various commands to do troubleshooting. We enabled inside of the switch. When we got into the switch, we put in our enable command. That's one. We use the show IP interface brief to target the particular IP addresses, the protocols, their interfaces, to make sure they all working. Remember, we got interfaces, we got IP address, we got the status, and we got the protocols. And we check to see why was these devices down, and then we would in there was able to bring the ports and protocols up. So this is basic troubleshooting, people, that you must know. And we're going to do this after we run a few labs. We're going to always do a troubleshooting. Troubleshooting is neither an art or a science. It's just something you do every day and you get good at it. But you have to troubleshoot issues and problems. And in your first year of working in the IT industry, you're going to have a whole host of problems that you can't figure out. But Professor Sistrunk is saying this: keep pursuing it, keep going, and you'll get better, and great. This is Professor Sistrunk. I am signing off. I hope that I gave you something that would help you. Have a nice day.